Hi everyone, welcome back to True Crime Files. You're with your host today, Kathy. How is everybody? I hope you're really doing well. And I hope the sun's shining wherever you are as well. We've got sunshine here. I think it's probably warmer outside than it is in my room at the moment because I feel cold. But since my cancer treatment, that's all I've done is been feeling cold when I shouldn't be feeling cold. Well, today's episode is Where is Sarah Wellgreen? This is an old case. It goes back to 2018. And she was, this is in October. She's a mother of 5 who vanished. She just disappeared. She'd been at home in Kent, in England, with her 2 children and had reportedly been texting her elder son during the daytime. But later on, when Sarah didn't show up for work the following morning and failed to answer her phone, her family and friends began to worry, which you would do if you could contact someone. After she'd been reported missing, the police questioned Ben Lancome, her ex-partner, whom she'd shared 3 of her 5 children with. He was still living at the same house as Sarah, so obviously he's going to be the first one questioned when she disappeared from the same home. It claimed to be that he'd been in bed asleep on the night she was last seen alive. However, it was later revealed that Ben, a taxi driver, had switched off CCTV system at their home and then parked his red Vauxhall Safari in a different spot than normal in the bid to avoid being detected. But I've got a video to show you. We'll just get that started. So that was Sarah. That's a taxi driver. He looks, well, I shouldn't say it, but he looks like a nonce or a pervert. He doesn't look, I don't know. My opinions are my opinions. I say things as I see it. And I'm not ashamed of calling a spade when it comes to it. But he just screams out "Nancy man" to me, but he probably isn't. He's probably a really nice chap, apart from being accused of what he's been accused of. So I'll add this story to the stage now, and then you can listen to it. The voices, I believe, is done in AI, but everything else is true. So don't think it's clickbait or anything like that, because it's not. Here we go. Yeah, the volume's right up.
Imagine waking up one morning and your mother is simply gone. No note, no goodbye, no phone call, no trace. Her car is still in the driveway, her belongings are still inside the house, her children are still in their beds, and the man sleeping down the hall claims he has no idea what happened. That is exactly what Sarah Wellgreen's family faced on the morning of October 10th, 2018. And what came next would reveal a calculated act of domestic violence so cold, so deliberate, so perfectly hidden, that years later, investigators still cannot answer the one question that haunts her family every single day. Where is Sarah?
Also, please go to their channel and subscribe to them if it's something that interests you. I always give a shout out to people's videos I use.
Love True Crime? The Ultimate Serial Killer colouring book features 60 to them. She was not the kind of woman who disappeared without explanation.
I don't do adverts.
She was not the kind of woman who walked away from her responsibilities. She was the kind of mother who texted her kids even when she was busy, who answered the phone no matter what, who showed up, always.
That's what parents do.
That is why, when she suddenly went silent, nobody believed for a single second that she had left on her own. In the months before her disappearance, Sarah was on the verge of something exciting. She had secured a new job in the beauty industry, one that came with better pay, a company car, and the financial independence she had been working toward for years. She was planning to reorganize her life. She was going to buy out her ex-partner from the home they shared and finally move forward on her own terms.
Well done,
she was not running away from her life. She was building a new one. To understand what happened to Sarah, you need to understand the man at the centre of this story, Ben Lacombe. Sarah and Lacombe had met online around 2004. At the time, both were living in Kent and the relationship developed quickly. They moved in together, built a family, and for a while things appeared functional, if not always easy. Together they had 3 children. Sarah also had children from a previous relationship. Lacombe worked as a taxi driver. He was familiar with the roads of Kent at all hours of the day and night, a detail that would later become deeply significant. By 2014, the romantic relationship between Sarah and Lacombe was over. But here is where it gets complicated. They continued living together, same house, same roof. The reasons were practical: the children, the finances, and most importantly, the house itself. The property in Bazes Shaw, New Ash Green, was jointly owned. Separating legally, financially, and physically was not a simple matter, and so they stayed. 2 people who were no longer together, sharing a home, sharing children, sharing a life that neither of them had chosen for themselves anymore. As you can imagine, that kind of arrangement does not stay neutral forever. Friends and family later described the living situation as increasingly tense. Arguments happened, resentments built up, and at the centre of the growing conflict was a single, loaded issue: the house. Sarah had made a decision. She was going to buy Lacombe out of the property. She had the means to do it now: the new job, the better salary, the financial stability she had worked hard to create. If she moved forward with her plan, Lacombe would lose the home. He would lose his financial foothold. He would lose control of the household. For some people, that kind of loss is just a difficult transition. For others, it is a trigger. In the days leading up to October 9th, 2018, Sarah Wellgreen showed no signs of fear or distress. She was excited. Her friends later told investigators that she talked about her new job with real enthusiasm. She talked about her plans. She talked about the future. She was looking forward to what came next. On October 9th, a Tuesday, Sarah spent the day communicating normally with the people in her life. She texted one of her sons. She spoke with a friend by phone and discussed her upcoming job, her plans for the house, the next chapter she was about to begin. There was nothing in her voice, nothing in her messages that suggested anything was wrong. That evening she was at home in New Ash Green. The children were in the house. Lacombe was in the house. And at some point during that night, after her last messages went out, after the house fell quiet, after everyone should have been sleeping, something happened. Something that Sarah never came back from. On the morning of October 10th, Sarah Wellgreen did not show up for work. That alone was alarming. She was about to start a new job, and she was not the type to miss work without a call. But it was the silence that truly frightened her family. No texts, no calls, no social media, no banking transactions, nothing. Her phone had gone completely dark. When family members tried to contact her, there was no response. When they came to the house, they found her car still parked outside. Her personal belongings were still inside. There was no sign that she had packed anything, no sign that she had planned to go anywhere. There was just absence. A missing persons report was filed almost immediately. Police arrived and began questioning the people in the house. Lacombe told them he had gone to bed early. He said he had not seen Sarah leave. He said he did not know where she had gone. And from that very first statement, detectives felt something was wrong. The investigation into Sarah's disappearance moved quickly because the facts of the case left very little room for ambiguity. Sarah Wellgreen had 5 children she adored. She had a new job starting. She had financial plans in motion. She had a phone she used constantly and a family she stayed in regular contact with. There was not a single person who knew her who believed she had walked away voluntarily. Police focused on the home almost immediately. What they found, or rather what they did not find, was deeply suspicious. There was no evidence of travel, no airport records, no train tickets, no car movement from her vehicle. There were no bank withdrawals. There were no messages sent after the night of October 9th. Her phone had gone silent and stayed silent. But the detail that truly shifted the investigation was this: the CCTV cameras. Near the property, there were surveillance cameras that should have captured movement around the house that night. When investigators went to review the footage, they made a disturbing discovery. Some of the cameras had been covered, others had been repositioned. The footage that might have captured what happened that evening was missing. Investigators did not believe this was a coincidence. Prosecutors would later argue that Lacombe had deliberately tampered with the cameras before the crime was committed. Not after, before. That one detail changed everything about the nature of this case. Because if the cameras were manipulated before Sarah disappeared, then what happened that night was not a sudden argument that got out of control. It was planned. Although the exact details of what happened inside that house have never been publicly confirmed, because Sarah's body has never been found, investigators built a theory based on the available evidence. Prosecutors argue that Lacombe murdered Sarah inside the home sometime during the night of October 9th or the early hours of October 10th. The killing, they suggested, was carried out in a way that minimized evidence. There was no visible sign of a struggle inside the house, no blood, no damage, nothing that would alarm the children sleeping upstairs. After killing her, investigators believe Lacombe used his taxi to transport her body away from the property. Think about that for a moment. A taxi driver working at night is not unusual. A car moving through rural Kent at 2 or 3 in the morning attracts no attention. No one looks twice at a cab on a country road. Police believe he drove her body to a rural location, somewhere in the Kent countryside, and disposed of it there. The specific areas of interest included farmland and woodland around Longfield, Ash, Sevenoaks and Dartford. And then he came back home and waited. What followed was one of the largest search operations in the history of the county. Police organised systematic sweeps of the surrounding countryside. Volunteers joined the effort. Specialist teams were brought in. Over the course of the investigation, more than 1,250 separate locations were examined. Search teams used cadaver dogs trained to detect human remains. Drones covered large areas of open land from above. Ground-penetrating equipment was used on buried soil. Sonar was deployed on bodies of water. Fields, forests, roadside ditches, ponds, farmland, rural roads, more than 1,200 sites, and nothing. Not a single trace of Sarah Wellgreen was found. For the family, each failed search was another wound. Her son, Jack Burdett, became one of the most visible advocates for his mother's case, speaking to journalists, participating in searches, making public appeals. He said it again and again. The family did not want justice alone. They wanted their mother back. They wanted to bring her home. Despite the absence of a body, police gathered enough evidence to charge Ben Lacombe with murder. The trial took place at Woolwich Crown Court in London in 2019.
And I got to say, I got to say that to be charged, where's it gone? To be charged with murder, oh God, I've really ruined it. To be charged of murder without a body is extremely difficult to prove. But I've known some cases to be able to do that, where they can be charged for murder when there's no body. But that's only because normally I think how it works is if there's only one person that is the suspect and nobody else and everyone else has been ruled out, I believe then that's when the judge can charge one person with the sole murder of a person. There's been a few cases where people have been charged for murder without a body being found.
A case built entirely on circumstantial evidence. The prosecution presented a methodical argument. They walked the jury through Sarah's life in the weeks before her disappearance, her plans, her excitement, her phone activity, her complete lack of any reason to vanish. They established that she had never, in her entire life, disappeared without explanation. They noted that her children had not received a single message from her after the night of October 9th. They pointed out that her car never moved, her bank account never registered a transaction, and her phone never connected to a network again. Then they turned to Lacombe. They presented his original statement, that he had gone to bed early and seen nothing. They showed how that statement contradicted the timeline. They showed the evidence of CCTV tampering, and they argued this proved premeditation. They presented the details of the property dispute and established a clear financial and emotional motive. The defense argued the obvious. There was no body. Without a body, they said, there was no proof of murder. But the prosecution had anticipated that argument. They asked the jury a simple question. If Sarah Wellgreen is still alive, where is she? Why has she never contacted her children?
And why has
she never accessed her bank account? Why has there been no digital trace of her existence in over a year? The answer, the prosecution argued, was not a mystery. The answer was that Sarah was dead. On October 28, 2019, the jury deliberated and returned a unanimous verdict. Ben Lacombe was found guilty of murder. The judge sentenced him to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 27 years before he would be eligible for parole. Outside the courtroom, Sarah's family wept, not just with grief, but with the particular exhaustion of people who had been fighting for over a year to have what they already knew be officially recognized. Their mother had been murdered, and now the law agreed, but she was still missing. Even after the verdict, even after the sentence, even after everything, Ben Lacombe has never said a word about where Sarah's body is. No confession, no partial disclosure, no negotiation, just silence. That silence is its own form of cruelty. Sarah's family cannot hold a proper funeral. They cannot visit a grave. They cannot stand over a place and say, "This is where she is. This is where she rests." Jack Burdett has continued to speak publicly, continued to search, continued to appeal to anyone who might know something. A neighbor who noticed something unusual that night, a driver who saw something on a rural road, a farmer who found something disturbed on their land. Police continue to believe the body is somewhere in the Kent countryside. They continue to say that a chance discovery, during construction, farming work, or simply someone walking through the right field at the right time, could still solve the final mystery of this case. As of today, Sarah Wellgreen has never been found. Technical and forensic analysis. From a forensic and investigative standpoint, the Sarah Wellgreen case is remarkable for several reasons. First, and most significantly, this was a successful murder conviction achieved without a body. In legal terms, this is called a no-body homicide case, and they are exceptionally difficult to prosecute. The foundational challenge is that prosecutors must prove beyond reasonable doubt that the victim is dead, without presenting remains as evidence. Courts have historically been reluctant to convict without physical proof of death. In this case, the prosecution built their argument around a convergence of circumstantial factors: digital silence, behavioral absence, financial inactivity, physical evidence of CCTV tampering, and the complete implausibility of any voluntary disappearance theory. The CCTV tampering was arguably the most forensically significant piece of evidence. It demonstrated intentionality, a spontaneous crime, a sudden argument, a moment of rage. Does not involve pre-positioning surveillance cameras. The fact that the cameras were interfered with before the event told investigators that the perpetrator had planned what was going to happen. The vehicle analysis was another critical element. Investigators examined the GPS data and mileage from Lacombe's taxi in an attempt to reconstruct where he had driven that night. While they were not able to identify the specific disposal site, the analysis contributed to the overall...
Just to give you a bit more thing, when they were searching, Kent Police combined 2,771 locations using sniffer dogs and drones and sonar while drafting 160 extra police officers from across the country to help to find her, but still haven't found where she was buried. So I think a volunteer group had decided to try and search for Sarah Wellgreen, and they remained active ever since her disappearance, and they vowed they would never give up looking for Sarah. But I still don't think she's been seen since. I've tried looking on the news to see if there was any updates on it since 2018, but if there is news, if they did find her, it's not in the news source So she's still missing. So my opinion, she's probably been put into a river where it's easy to get rid of a body because the fish, the water and things, so do all sorts of things to the body, sadly. But yeah, so as far as I'm aware, she's never been found.
Picture of his movements. The digital forensics were equally important. The precise timestamp at which Sarah's phone went completely silent, ceasing all communication, network connection, and data activity, helped establish a narrow window for when investigators believed she died. Finally, the sheer scale of the search operation, over 1,250 sites examined using cadaver dogs, drones, sonar, and ground-penetrating equipment,
just like I said,
demonstrated both the thoroughness of the investigation and the extraordinary challenge of recovering remains in the densely rural geography of Kent. Psychological analysis. From a psychological perspective, this case fits a pattern that criminologists call intimate partner homicide driven by loss of control. To understand what likely drove Ben Lacombe, you need to understand the psychological dynamic of the situation he found himself in. For years after the romantic relationship ended, Lacombe retained something: proximity. He lived in the same house. He was part of the same daily routine. He had access to the children. He had a claim on the property. In a very real sense, even though the relationship was over, his presence in Sarah's life was intact. Then Sarah got a new job, better salary, a company car, financial independence, and she made the decision to buy him out of the house. Suddenly, all of that changed. The financial tether was about to be cut. The housing arrangement was about to end. His position, his place in that household, in those children's daily lives, in that shared space, was about to disappear. For individuals with controlling tendencies, this kind of loss does not feel like a normal life transition. It feels like a threat. It feels like an annihilation of identity. Criminological research on domestic homicide consistently shows that murders in intimate partner relationships most frequently occur not during the relationship itself, but at the moment of separation. At the moment when the victim attempts to at the moment when independence becomes real rather than theoretical. Sarah was not just leaving the relationship. She was becoming financially free, professionally established, and physically separate. She was removing herself from every system of dependency or connection that Lacombe had maintained. The premeditation suggested by the CCTV tampering aligns with what psychologists describe as predatory violence: methodical, controlled, and planned, as opposed to effective violence, which is reactive and impulsive. Lacombe did not snap. He calculated. And the silence he's maintained since the verdict, refusing to reveal the location of Sarah's body despite her family's anguish, reflects a continued need for control. In death, as in life, he maintains the one piece of power he has left, the knowledge of where she is.
Which is really cruel to the family and the children, because they haven't got a place they can, go and visit, like a grave to go to, or scatter ashes or things like that. So, I mean, the only thing they would be able to do is maybe plant a tree and do something else in her memory, and that. But I wish there was a way they could make murderers give up where the bodies are, because it would help so many families around the world, and that to know where their loved ones have disappeared to.
Let's bring this case together one final time. Around 2004, Sarah Wellgreen and Ben Lacombe meet online and begin a relationship in Kent, England. They build a life together, have children, and share a home in New Ash Green.
Like anyone else would.
By 2014, the romantic relationship is over, but they continue living together for practical reasons, with tensions slowly building over finances and the...
Just one word on that. When I split up with my children's father, we said we would do that. Live together, separate lives in the house, both got access to the children, our own finances of our own, but it doesn't work out. It may work out for some couples, but it was just weird, because to me it just felt like it was a normal relationship sort of thing. We'd gone back to our own ways. except for we were in separate beds. So it may work out for some people, but I can see on this one how tensions slowly started building up, after finances and over the children and bits and pieces like that. So good on those who it does work out for, but it didn't work out for me, and it certainly didn't work out for Paul Sarah Greenwell.
Jointly owned property. In 2017 and 2018, Sarah begins planning her next chapter. She secures a new job, moves toward financial independence, and decides to buy Lacombe out of the house. On October 9th, 2018, Sarah spends the day communicating normally with friends and family. She's optimistic, excited, and looking forward to her future. That evening, after her last messages are sent, she's never seen again.
Strange.
On October 10th, her family realizes she has vanished. No phone activity, no financial transactions, no travel records, no contact with her children. Her car sits untouched outside the house. A missing persons is. Investigators quickly focus on Lacombe. His story is inconsistent. CCTV cameras near the property have been tampered with. Police begin to believe the crime was premeditated. A massive search operation covers more than 1,250 locations across the Kent countryside. No remains are found. In 2019, Lacombe is charged with murder. The trial takes place at Woolwich Crown Court.
And I bet
on
he
October
thought he could get
28th,
away with it.
2019, he is found guilty of murder and sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 27 years. To this day, Ben Lacombe has never revealed the location of Sarah's body. Her family continues to search. Her son Jack continues to speak for her publicly. And somewhere in the countryside of Kent, England, Sarah Wellgreen is still waiting to be found. If you know anything about this case, anything at all, Kent Police continue to appeal for information. It is not too late. It is never too late for a mother's family to bring her home. If this story affected you, please share it, not for the views, but because Sarah Wellgreen deserves to be remembered, and because there are people out there who might see this and finally decide to say something. Subscribe if you haven't already. New case.
As I always say, see something, say something. Let me bring her back up there. If you see something, doesn't matter how big or how small it may be, you have to say something, because your saying something might be the lead that brings justice, brings like a body back, or whereabouts and that. And it really helps with the family as well. It's good to hear that Jack is still advocating for his mum, like any good son would do. He's not going to give up easily, and I don't think he will. And even if Sarah's body is never found, I can see Jack and the other children going through their entire life searching, but then they've always got in the back of their mind, where is mum? And that guy doesn't deserve to come out of prison, and I hope if he does come out of prison, there's arrangements that he can't go anywhere near the children, because I don't think the children would want to ever speak to him or see him ever again. And I know if I was in their shoes, I wouldn't want to see the person that's murdered my, mum and things like that. So, if you see something, say something. If you're in England and in the Kent area, if you know anything at all about Sarah Wellgreen, or find suspicious items and that, contact the local police on 999 or 101. I think you can do it as well. So we need to find her. I mean, there's so many cold cases out there that have not got no answers to the end. You got the beginning and you got the middle, but you haven't got the end. So let's keep searching for Sarah, and I hope her story stays alive for many, many, many years, because cold cases get forgotten about. And when they're forgotten about, no one's bothering searching for that person. So we need to give a voice to the voiceless. So hopefully someone can give a voice back to Sarah. That's all I say. So thank you very much for watching. If you could like and subscribe, I would really, really appreciate that. And if you want to buy me a coffee or email me, all the links will be in the bio of this description for Sarah. Okay then, thank you. Bye.